to Applicata Biblia. My name is Mark. Thank you so much for stopping by. Glad to see you here. It's, again, we're continuing in the series, A Walk Through the Bible, or Bible Characters. And we are done looking at the kings between Judah and Israel. We just briefly looked at Israel's kings. It was a short study because they're all basically not good kings. But if I'm just glossing over this, and if you really want to see what goes on, really, I just suggest you read through those books, First and Second Kings, and maybe even the Chronicles, and you can see just the progression of things and how things go south really quick. It doesn't take a whole lot to make things go bad. Okay, so we're going to get into the prophets. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single prophet, okay, because like Moses, he was a patriarch, was also a prophet. And there's different meanings to that word. A lot of the time, and most of the time, when we talk about prophets, we talk about prophets who can prophesy in the sense that they can tell about future events, because God is speaking to them and he's letting them know, go tell this king this is what's going to happen to him and his kingdom. I'm taking away the kingdom, or I gave him the kingdom. So, and this is what a prophet would do. And sometimes, like in the case of Samuel, who was a prophet, he goes to talk to people sometimes, and they're terrified of him. Have you come to hurt us? They don't know what's going to happen, because sometimes these prophets are, they're just bringing God's word, and sometimes it's brutal. Okay, so we're going to talk about Elijah today. Now, again, I'm not covering everything about Elijah. I really do suggest you look at what he does, because his life is really amazing. It starts off, and he's really this nomadic sort of person. And just so you know, maybe I'll put this up again. This is a chart made by Barry Kirchville, and this is the kings of Israel over here. And Elijah, and then later we'll see Elisha. They are, several, 6, 7 chapters of First and Second Kings, and they are basically prophets to these guys right in here. Okay, we already covered everything, but we're kind of backing up historically, and Ahab is one of the central characters that God wants everybody to see as who he doesn't like, and Elijah is a prophet to him. Elijah wants nothing to do with him, because he just tells, Elijah just tells him what's what. You're evil, or, God is going to reject you, or, all these different things. Now, historically speaking, he has married, I think, what is known as a Phoenician wife, and so she brings in her worship of the Baals, and so that's kind of where we see the springboard of this worship of Baals being just rampant, first in Israel, then in Judah. But even before this, there were problems with the Baals. Okay, it isn't just now. It's kind of always been an issue, even, like right after the time of Joshua, where these things were happening. Okay, lesson 47. If you want to look at the scriptures, that's fine. It's going to be 1 Kings 17, verses 17 through 24. So just by way of backing up, I want to just say a few of the things that we see Elijah do. Okay, it's important to know this about Elijah. I don't want to go too fast, and I know I am, but he's a prophet during the reign of Ahab and some other kings. He contends with 400 of the priests. Now, Ahab's wife is named Jezebel, okay? And right, Jezebel, ooh, everybody hears that name and they go, oh, Jezebel means like evil woman. That's kind of her name now is synonymous with that. And he is so sick and tired of these Baals that this Baal worship, because God hates it so much. He says, he challenges these 400 Baal priests to basically a sacrifice event. And he says, you sacrifice to your god Baal and see if he does anything, and then I'll sacrifice to my God, and we'll see who God is. And so they do their sacrifice, and they put all this fire on there, and they put these animals on there, and nothing's happening, of course, because these other gods are phony. There are no such thing. It's not true living like Jehovah God. And they go around, they're cutting themselves and doing all this stuff, and it ends up that Elijah ends up mocking them, saying, "Oh, what's the matter? Maybe your God is tired, like maybe he's on vacation or something." And he ends up going, get out of the way. My turn. After I don't know how long they were doing it, but long enough where nothing was going to happen. He goes in, he sets up his own stuff for a sacrifice, and they pour water all over it. They dig a ditch and pour water all in that, and he makes this prayer to God. God comes down and licks everything up with fire and consumes everything, even the rocks. And everybody goes, "Wow, God is God!" And they all right there and then understand who Jehovah God is. And then Elijah goes and dispatches the 400 priests right there on the spot. So he contends with those, and then he also calls down fire. And so he calls down fire on some people or cities or something. I don't remember exactly the story. But the important part is that what he's doing is he's not trying to make a big deal about himself. He's just showing who God is, and it's important to see these things. He also prophesies no rain for 3 years, and there's just all kinds of things that happen. When Jezebel finds out he's killed her 400 prophets of Baal, the priests of Baal, she sets out to kill him, and he runs off, and God, he's hiding, and God says, "What are you doing here?" And God shows himself. He kind of reveals himself to him. So he is absolutely a man of God, a man seeking after God. But he's really kind of this. He's so upset that people aren't obeying God. He's just really gloomy about the whole thing most of the time. There's also this miracle that happens where he is staying at this widow's home, and she has nothing. He says, "Make me a cake," and she says, "I can't make you a cake. There's enough for me and my son, and that's it. That's it. After that, we're going to die." And he says, "Just do it, and your food will not run out." And that's what happened. There is oil and there is some flour, and they don't run out. It's a miracle. God's performing miracles through him. Okay, so there's a bunch of these things that are important to see, because by the time Jesus comes along, right, Elijah's story is still very prominent in the Jewish culture mind. And they understand that he has this great power, that God is with him. That's how you see that God is with somebody, is when God demonstrates his power through these people. So it's important to see that. That's the Jesus part of the story. Okay, so in this story, in 1 Kings 17, the widow's son dies. Okay, he dies. And she says to him, "Oh, so you came to my house so your God can kill my son?" and Elijah goes, no, and this is what we need to look at, is what is the accusation? And that's what she says to him. And he says, so he prays and he puts himself over the boy and he restores the boy. The boy is alive, is revived and given back to his mother. So again, this is that power that God exhibits through his prophets and his people when it suits him, when he's ready to do it. And there's only a specific time that he does. He just doesn't do it all the time. Okay. So what is the Elijah question to God in verse 20? And he's basically saying to God, why have I come here? I mean, why is this happening? Let's read that. Verse 20, and he cried to Jehovah and said, Jehovah, my God, have you also brought evil on the widow with whom I am staying by slaying her son? He's saying, what's going on here? He's questioning God. And of course, no, God didn't do it. The boy died probably of natural causes, but God does revive him. And that was the accusation, and it was blasphemy against God. And so God handles it. How does a woman recognize Elijah to be the man of God? Well, he's just raised somebody from the dead. Okay. And it's important to see these things because, again, Jesus comes along. He shows all kinds of these signs and wonders and miracles and things that, a miracle is only when it's a supernatural event, when it couldn't happen naturally, like somebody dies and they're made living again. That's a miracle. And I'm not talking about CPR. I'm talking about just putting your hands on them or whatever. Okay, so the next story, 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 30 through 39, list Elijah's objectives in verses 37 and 38, what was accomplished through God's miracle. And today, God will not perform miracles. Okay? God doesn't need to perform miracles for you and me to prove us as his children. How do we show ourselves to be his children? So let's go through the story first. So this is a story where he's fighting against those 400 Baal priests. And they made an offering calling on their gods, and they're cutting themselves. And Elijah mocks them. And Elijah prepares a sacrifice and covers it in water. And he prays to God. And answer me, O Jehovah, answer me, and this people shall know that you are Jehovah God, and you shall turn their hearts back again. And that's where God just consumes everything right there in front of them. And the people praise Jehovah. And that is the purpose of a miracle. That's the purpose of a sign, is to lead people back to God, to show who God is. And in this case as well, to show if somebody is indeed representing God. So how do we, how does God use us to show that we represent him? Well, it's pretty simple. It doesn't need to be a miracle because God has given us his word. He puts his word down, and all you do, if you want to prove yourself to be representative of God, is you turn to the word and you read the word to people so they can see for themselves. It's not a thing where I have to heal somebody's broken leg or raise a dead person or anything like that. That's not necessary. We don't need to do that. And I've said this before. There came a time in the ministry of Jesus where he himself grows weary of doing miracles and signs for people because that's all they wanted. They wanted to see something spectacular. They didn't care about the implications of him being God. You know, they didn't care about that. They just wanted to be fed, or they wanted to get riches, or, you know, whatever they were thinking. Or they wanted to even just get healed. Okay, we're going to leave it there. We're going to talk next about Elisha. We'll see you in the next one.